Do you struggle with getting people involved in security in your organization? Do you find it difficult to get people to participate in your risk assessment process? Is your risk assessment process that you go through in your company, is it boring? Is it uninspiring? At KirkpatrickPrice, we do cybersecurity and compliance audits, and we've done over 19,000 of them. And we know that this is a problem because we look at the risk assessment results in every single one of those audits. And the risk assessments have these common problems of maybe it's performed by one person, and that's a problem whenever it's the IT director or the IT manager who's performing the risk assessment every year, and that person is the only person who's involved in it. Or the results in the risk assessment look suspiciously familiar to the ones that we looked at last year. It's pretty much a roll forward of the same risks and the same exercise year over year. Another problem is nobody knows what the results of the risk assessment are. You corroborate with other parts of the organization what's going on, and they don't even know about the risk assessment that happened. They don't even know about what the risks are. Nobody's communicated with them. And even the board of directors, who are responsible for the risk that the company is facing, is not aware of what the risk assessments are, except for a bullet that is on the memo that is sent to the board of directors meeting. But at KirkpatrickPrice, we believe that this is going to change in the future. We believe that this is going to have to change because the threats that we are facing, the way that they are growing and the way that they are coming at us with more impact is forcing us to change the way we do risk assessment. We're going to have to make it more interesting for our organizations. We're going to have to plug it in to more of what our organization's mission is about. We're going to have to involve more people in the risk assessment process. We are going to have to recruit people from all levels and all departments if we want to raise our game to the place that we are preparing and defending and protecting against all the threats that are facing our organization. And it really is an ancient art called risk management that is going to be the solution in the future. It's an ancient practice, but unfortunately a lot of us are just not actually doing it. We've boiled it down to a template. We've boiled it down to a simple rote exercise that we do every year. But if we can actually do it, if we can actually get our organization to participate in a risk assessment, that will be our trusted weapon against all these forces that we are facing as an organization, as an industry. And so I want us today to use one of the most famous risk management examples ever put on film as our example to learn from their mistakes, because there were a lot of mistakes in their risk management exercise. And we're going to start here with one of the very famous risk assessment meetings. This organization called together people from different departments and different responsibilities in the organization, and they said, okay, let's perform a risk assessment. And this guy on the right over here, who's leaning on the table, he's saying in this scene, he says, we are vulnerable. We are sitting ducks. The Rebel Alliance has the plan. They are working on an attack strategy right now, and we're just sitting here waiting. And we are at risk. And this guy over here on the left is in disagreement. And he says in the risk assessment meeting that we are the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. We cannot be defeated. We are invulnerable. We are impervious to these rebel scum. And the guy over on the right again says, we're not even operational. How can you say that there's no risk when we're not even operational yet? We're just sitting here just waiting for them to come up with something. And the security officer is the one who's standing in this particular scene. And the security officer says, hold on everybody, I've got a plan. And the plan is, we're going to recover the plans, we are going to find out what their strategy is, and we're going to stop it. And we're going to use the power of the force. Security officers like to use language that's mysterious and, you know, a little threatening and a little ominous to control the people in the room. And so the guy on the left hears this and he says, that's just a bunch of techno speak. You're just, you know, saying these words. And he brings up some very valid points in the risk assessment meeting. He says, your power didn't exactly identify where the plans were all this time, and your power actually never found the droids that we were looking for. And so it's a very valid point, right? You know, where was your force? You know, where was your security control then when we needed you? And just like a good security officer, what is his response? Does he listen? Does he understand? You know, the concern, does he work with the people to understand what it is? No, he goes straight for the force choke. And that's what security officers do. They force choke everyone with their terminology and their knowledge. And this is how we are viewed as security professionals. I'm a security professional. Most of you are security professionals. And we don't like this. But this is the truth. This is how we're viewed. And you can sit there all day long and say, I've never force choked anyone. I've never treated anyone like that. But this is exactly how you treat people. Because, you know, one of the reasons that I'm a security professional is because I love the feeling of knowing things that other people don't know. You know, it's intoxicating. And this guy right here, he's intoxicated with power, you know, and it is a good feeling because it's just like, oh, I've learned this special thing that no one else knows called cybersecurity, and I know this language that's like a secret language, and you have to go through all this stuff in order to learn this secret language over here, and so we walk in rooms. And we tell everybody what we know and what the plans are and what it's going to be. And we've been doing it in this room today, right? With all the conversation about AI and everything. We're going to go back to our organizations and we're going to tell them about AI. And the whole time that we talk to them about it, they're just sitting there going, because they're scared. We're freaking them out with all this stuff because we stand in the middle of the room and we do this to people. And so some lessons to think about as security officers and how we can get more people involved in a very important process that if it's done well will help our organizations be more secure, will help our organizations be successful, will help our organizations prepare against the threats that we're facing, is to actually think about who we are involving in the process. We do need to get people from HR and people from sales and marketing, and people from operations. And there definitely needs to be a leader in the room, someone who is as high up as possible, who's participating and understands what the risks are that we're facing. We do have to get the opinions of everybody. We have to get all the generational people, because as I work with more and more Gen Z members, I'm learning so much from them because they have a totally different perspective and understanding than I do. And so they bring a lot to these meetings when they get to participate in what threats are we facing, what is the risk of this happening, how can we adopt this new technology. And so you've got to get your risk assessment committee looking like that. You've got to involve those people. And the best advice that I can give those of us who are knowledgeable about security and know exactly how this should be done and has all the advice in the world, we actually should not be the one facilitating this exercise. People are intimidated by us. We need to have a seat at the table. We don't need to be the one standing at the end of the table. This event needs to be facilitated by someone else. There is somebody in your organization, and if you look for who they are and where they are, you might be surprised in what role they fill in your organization, but it's somebody who actually would be very good at putting a creative risk assessment committee meeting together, somebody who could really be an expert at facilitating it and getting people's involvement and getting people's interaction. There's somebody in your organization who can do that and who is better at that. And it's hard for us because we're the most knowledgeable people, but we're also very misunderstood. And they feel like we are force choking them. And the truth of the matter is, what? Actually, we're the people who care the most about this. And it comes across the wrong way because we care so much about it. We get a little intense about it. And that's why they feel force choked. And so I wish that everybody appreciated us security professionals, because actually underneath the harsh language and the threats and the intimidation, we actually care the most about this. And that, my friends, is actually the story of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's a beautiful story. He actually cares. He actually cares more than anybody. And so if you haven't seen the series, pick it up and watch it. And so what turns out to be the vulnerability? There were multiple vulnerabilities. The guy in the room was wrong when he was like, we are invincible. That's not true. You have many vulnerabilities. You've got these engineers that can make a mistake. You've got the designers. You've got employees. You've got stormtroopers. You've got the external forces and all these things that can affect it. But the vulnerability that the people on the other side picked was a thermal exhaust port. And this was the vulnerability that the empire ignored and wasn't aware of and missed it because they were so focused on their power and they were so focused on their operational mission that they had. And I've got $100 in my pocket for someone who can tell me the size of this vulnerability.
2 meters?
2 meters, that's exactly right. Congratulations. I knew that I was among friends today. The vulnerability was 2 meters. And I will give bonus points for whoever knows what else was 2 meters. A womp rat. Yes, that's exactly right. This vulnerability was the size of a womp rat back home. And so, we have people in our organization who say dealing with this risk that we're facing is impossible. Did you see all the stats that these security professionals are scaring us with today? It's impossible. We can't win. But actually, we took a farm boy and trained him and put him into the fight, and he was actually, yes, we can win. It's just the size of a womp rat. Back home, I used to hit those all the time from that distance. And so it is possible to defeat these dark forces that we are concerned about. And so I look at risk assessment reports all the time, and there is just not a focus on the vulnerability. They're so focused on threats, but getting people to understand what vulnerability we're actually facing as an organization and getting people in those cross departments to start thinking about vulnerability. First of all, just getting people to admit that we have it. We all have to embrace the fact that we do have vulnerability and we are facing it. That's half the battle right there, getting people to see that and then start thinking about, oh yeah, I do have to monitor this in my department with my team. I do have to get people to see that we're facing this stuff so that we can respond faster and we can bring up things without fear. And we really need to spend this risk assessment time with our team. That's why we all skip over this really critical thing, which is actually doing the hard part, which is spending time and effort on learning about the vulnerability that we face as an organization. And so that's where our focus should be, to get our whole company thinking this way and understanding. And so this was the vulnerability they were facing, and the threat was the X-wing. That was ultimately the one that was successful against the vulnerability. There were Y-wings, there were freighters that were bringing them in to range of the Death Star, and so this was the threat. And too many of the risk assessments that I look at are just focused on the threats. Hacker, malicious employee, vendor, a process fails. People are talking about threats, but they're not connecting it to the vulnerability and the potential for those things happening. We're very threat focused, and that's an important part. But, this is not the only thing. There could have been other things that could have been coming at us. But for them, this was the immediate threat. And so, then, there's a scene in the movie that I really like in my profession of risk management, because it's when we adjust our controls for the threat that we're facing. And this is so important for all of us in our organizations. We have to have our people understanding what's going on. We have to have our people participating in this, no matter what role they have in the organization, because we've got to move quickly and adjust whenever the threat is realized. And so they had cannons in the trenches defending against these Y-wings and X-wings that were coming into the trench. But one of the officers comes to Darth Vader and he says, our cannons were not meant for close-range combat with these fighters, and so they're not effective. And so Darth Vader says, we'll have to take them down one by one. You and you come with me. And they get in their ships and they take off, because now they're going to get in their TIE fighter, and they are going to confront the threats one by one. But they had to adjust. They weren't planning on doing that. That wasn't part of the plan to defend against this particular threat. They didn't even know about this like an hour ago. And now they're dealing with it, and they're in their TIE fighters, and they're in the trench trying to stop the threat from happening. I've got another $100 in my pocket for anyone who can tell me what TIE stands for. This is a little harder than the last one. Twin ion engine. Oh, if only all of the people out there understood who we are and what we care about. We get it. Why doesn't everyone else know what a TIE fighter is? It's very important. It's very important to know. And so there's this scene right after this where the guy on the right is walking down the corridor, and the camera is like focused on his face, and you see his Adam's apple swallow. He's so nervous, and he swallows hard because he's coming to talk to Grand Moff Tarkin. And what's going through his mind at that moment? He's like, oh my goodness, I'm about to give him some bad news. Is he going to yell at me? Is he going to kill me? Will he believe me? Are they going to call me an idiot? Is this the end of my career? He's so nervous to share this information that's like the most valuable information that somebody could be giving him right now in this moment. And so this is what we have to foster in our organizations. We have to let our people know that, yeah, you need to speak up. You need to share critical information. You need to share your observation no matter how ridiculous you think it might be. And so he comes up to Grand Moff Tarkin and he says, we've analyzed their attack, sir. There is a danger. Should I ready your ship? And his neck snaps to the guy and he goes, evacuate? In our moment of triumph? You overestimate their chances. And so they just go right on. And so this is actually the hero of the whole movie, because He's the one that had a team that was analyzing the attack and said, oh, this is actually a valid thing. Maybe we should consider evacuation. And he has the courage and the gumption to actually go to the leader and say, maybe we should rethink what's happening here. But a very ineffective leader ridicules him and says, you're ridiculous. You are overestimating the chances of this. Well, it's the very thing that ultimately takes them down because he didn't listen to his team member who had actually done the analysis. He hadn't done the analysis. This guy had done the analysis. He should have listened to him. And so one of the things that I've learned because of understanding who we are as security professionals, when people come to us the first time with information or a suggestion or maybe something different than what they know we believe, they are nervous and they are swallowing hard. And they don't even want to say what they're thinking. And so the times when they come to me and they say, I wanted to share this, and I go, don't worry about that. No, that's not going to happen. Just go on about your job. I'll take care of it. I know what to do about that. Yeah, thank you. That's ineffective because it shuts them down, and then you miss something that they know that actually could be very beneficial. And so I've learned whenever they come and they say the first thing, I've learned that first thing is not the whole story, and I don't understand exactly what they're talking about. And so I always go, now what? And I have them say it a second time, and then they usually say a little bit more. And then I go, okay, here, let's sit down, and then give them the attention that they deserve and say, okay, now back up for me and just give me kind of the whole story about what it is you're seeing and what it is that you're thinking. And then that third time is when they actually give you more and better information that then you can actually decide, is this valid or not? But the first shutdown that he did here is not the way to go. That's not the way to get our people to work with us and to help us in this battle of security threats today. And so our risk assessment process has to be connected to our mission. You all represent some really great companies out there. Look at your company's mission statement. Look at your product. Look at your service. What is it that your organization is striving to do? This organization was striving to dominate the galaxy and govern the colonies by fear. You know, noble and, kind of ambitious plan that they had. But you are in organizations that have noble and ambitious plans. What is it that you are working on? What is it that's important to your teams? What is it that's important to your leadership and your board of directors? Because they really care about that. And so we have got to get the risk assessment process plugged into that. People have to see that risk management and risk assessment is part of ensuring that our mission will be successful. And it's about identifying the risk that we face in executing on our mission. And if we are not connecting those things, then we are missing the whole point of risk management. Because our people will get behind this, our people will want to participate in this if they see this as part of our mission and they see this as such an important element of being successful in what we're doing. And so we have to strive for that level of involvement and understanding about how our missions rely upon risk management. And so then you'll have a board who no longer is acting like, oh yeah, the security assessment result, we bought that tool, we did the budget, yeah, let's get over here onto our own business. Let's get over here to the real business. They're going to start caring about our cyber risk, and they're going to start caring about our cyber security controls, and they're going to start caring about the team members, and do we have enough resources, and do we have the training that we need, and do we have the tools that we need. They're going to start caring about it because it's connected to the mission. And then the report to the board. I mean, can you imagine what happened after the mission failed and everything blew up? Like, can you just imagine that first phone call from Darth Vader to the Emperor? Emperor? Yeah, this is Darth Vader. It's not so tough anymore, is he? He's a big bad security officer in the risk assessment meeting, but now he's just floating through space with a damaged TIE fighter, and he's calling the Emperor. Yeah, I've got a little bit of bad news. We had a little incident at the Death Star this morning. Oh yeah, what was it? What happened? Well, it blew up. It blew up. What? There was a 2-meter exhaust port. It's about the size of a womp rat. But yeah, that's what they used in order to destroy it. Well, how many people survived? Just me. I'm the only one. We have to start completely over again. And you know, the Emperor, he's the type of person where he's like, we're going to start again. We're going to do this, and we're going to learn from this mistake, and we're going to do it better next time. He was that type of person. But this communication with the board is super important. You know, this is the kind of relationship that needs to happen. The board does have to be aware of these things. This is how you will get that support from that level in the organization that you need. But it's a little awkward, you know, to go to the board and try to explain about ransomware and try to explain our budget requests and all those kinds of things. And, you know, try to draw some hope from the terror that Darth Vader must have felt on that fateful day. Now, this is just to drive my final point home, and I've already made the point, but if you were like me and you bought the 25th anniversary VHS set when it came out, it was remastered, it had some additional scenes in it, and I had never noticed this scene until I bought that set and I rewatched the New Hope episode with some friends of mine. And when Luke comes back from destroying the Death Star, this guy in the center here, he's the guy who brings the ladder to the X-Wing. And so as Luke is opening the cockpit and this guy brings the ladder over and Luke comes down, he's so excited because he was successful. And he slaps this guy right in the chest as he comes down. Watch the scene sometime, because the look on this guy's face when he gets slapped in the chest, you could tell that this was unscripted and this was unplanned. And you could tell that he was as surprised as anybody that he just got slapped on the chest by Luke Skywalker. But the funny part is after Luke hits him like that, his facial expression doesn't change. Look at it. And he just walks away like that. There's no smiling. Everybody else in the scene is so happy that they've been saved, but this guy is like, don't touch me. Okay? I'm just the ladder guy. You know, I have no place in this other than bringing you the ladder, and you slap me on the chest, you know, right in the middle of this. Just please let me be in peace. And there are people like this on our teams. You know, they're just the people who get the ladder for us. But they have a very important role, and they have a very important place in our organizations. And so don't treat them like they're not important, because even the least seemingly impactful people can have a lot to do with our mission and what we're doing. And so just remember that everybody plays a role in your risk management practices. And so we're giving away a Miami Dolphins Stormtrooper over here. So be sure to come over and enter for that, because whoever gets this Stormtrooper, I want you to put it in your office, and I want you to remember that there are all of these clones out there, and they all look the same, and they may just be numbers to you. They may just be peons, you know, who are moving around and doing their things. But we need these people. We need all these people to help us with cybersecurity and compliance and facing threats. And we need to say to them, we need you to help. I need you to help. And that will help you ultimately be more successful in your fight against the evil empire. May the 4th be with you.